Here's why Rhaenyra felt betrayed by Daemon's ruthless death of blood and cheese. The Targaryen dynasty is a family forged in fire, blood, and betrayal. Across generations, the line of dragonlords has seen ambition clash with loyalty, love entangled with cruelty, and the bonds of family shattered in the pursuit of power. But few moments in this tragic history resonate as shockingly as the moment Rhaenyra Targaryen felt the sting of betrayal at the hands of her own husband, Daemon, in the ruthless death of blood and cheese. It is a story of cunning, ambition, and moral compromise, a story that left Rhaenyra questioning everything she thought she knew about love, loyalty, and power. To understand the magnitude of Rhaenyra's sense of betrayal, we must first understand the figures at the center of this tragedy. Rhaenyra, daughter of King Viserys I, was a woman of unparalleled ambition, intelligence, and resilience. From her earliest days, she had been groomed to inherit the Iron Throne, trained to navigate the treacherous waters of Westerosi politics, and prepared to face the jealous rivalries and manipulations that inevitably accompany the crown. She was a leader in every sense, bold, visionary, and fiercely protective of her claim. Yet even the strongest leaders can be blindsided by those closest to them, and Rhaenyra was about to learn this lesson in the harshest way imaginable. Then there is Daemon Targaryen, her uncle and later husband, a man of extraordinary ability, magnetic charisma, and unparalleled ruthlessness. Daemon was a warrior, a strategist, and a man who thrived on bending situations to his will. He had always been ambitious, willing to take risks, and unapologetically self-interested. Yet despite his brilliance, Daemon's methods often tested the limits of morality, ethics, and even the loyalty of those who trusted him most. He was a figure who could inspire devotion, but also incite fear, and it is this duality that set the stage for Rhaenyra's profound sense of betrayal. The death of blood and cheese was more than a simple act of murder, it was a calculated, ruthless elimination of two key obstacles in Rhaenyra's path to power. Blood and cheese, known for their cunning, resourcefulness, and loyalty to Aegon II's faction, represented a direct threat to Rhaenyra's claim to the Iron Throne. To Daemon, their removal was not just a strategy, it was a necessary step to consolidate power, protect their faction, and ensure that Rhaenyra's path to the crown remained unobstructed. From a purely tactical standpoint, Daemon's actions were effective, precise, and brutally decisive. But from Rhaenyra's perspective, the manner and audacity of this act were deeply troubling. Rhaenyra's sense of betrayal stemmed from multiple layers of complexity. She had come to trust Daemon, not just as an ally in her political ambitions, but as a partner, a confidant, and a husband. In a court defined by shifting loyalties and ruthless intrigue, trust was a scarce commodity, and Daemon had long positioned himself as someone who could be relied upon to navigate the murky waters of Westerosi politics. Yet, in the case of blood and cheese, his methods were so extreme, so morally ambiguous, that Rhaenyra found herself questioning the very nature of their alliance. The ruthlessness of Daemon's actions cannot be understated. Blood and cheese were not merely executed, they were manipulated, deceived, and subjected to a cunning trap that demonstrated Daemon's tactical genius and his moral flexibility. To any outsider, this was a masterstroke of political strategy. It removed two dangerous opponents, destabilized Aegon II's faction, and sent a clear message to anyone considering resistance. But to Rhaenyra, it was a stark reminder of the extremes her husband was willing to go to achieve victory. The man she trusted to support her had acted without consulting her, without warning her, and without considering the potential consequences for her conscience or sense of morality. At the heart of Rhaenyra's feelings of betrayal was the element of autonomy, or the lack thereof. As queen and rightful heir, she was expected to assert authority, make decisions, and guide the course of the realm. Yet in this critical moment, Daemon had taken control of a situation that directly impacted her claim to the throne. By orchestrating the deaths of blood and cheese without her knowledge, he had acted decisively but unilaterally, sidelining Rhaenyra's agency and reminding her that even in a partnership of power, trust could be undermined by ambition and secrecy. It is crucial to consider the psychological dimension of this betrayal. Rhaenyra, though politically astute and emotionally strong, was still human. She had invested trust, love, and reliance on Daemon as a partner in both marriage and rule. The shock of discovering his ruthless methods forced her to confront uncomfortable truths, that power could corrupt even those closest to her, that ambition could overshadow loyalty, and that in the deadly game of Westerosi politics, moral boundaries were often negotiable. Her grief and disillusionment were not merely personal, they were deeply political, intertwined with the responsibilities and burdens of her crown. The death of Blood and Cheese also had broader implications for Rhaenyra's relationship with Daemon. While she understood the political necessity of removing threats, the extremity of his methods, deception, psychological manipulation, and calculated brutality, created a rift in their partnership. Rhaenyra had always valued intelligence, strategic foresight, and loyalty, but she also had a moral compass that guided her decisions. Daemon's willingness to act with such merciless efficiency forced her to reconcile her ambitions with her ethical standards, creating tension between what she desired as a ruler and what she could accept as a human being. Furthermore, the betrayal illuminated the inherent risks of relying on personal alliances in the pursuit of power. Rhaenyra's trust in Daemon had been a cornerstone of her strategy to claim the throne, yet his actions demonstrated that even the closest bonds could be compromised by personal ambition. Blood and Cheese were removed not by her own hand, but through the cunning, independent initiative of her husband, a stark reminder that in Westeros, loyalty was often conditional, and trust could be both a weapon and a liability. It is also worth noting the political genius behind Daemon's actions. By eliminating Blood and Cheese in such a calculated manner, he significantly weakened Aegon II's faction, secured key advantages for Rhaenyra's claim, and demonstrated the lethal effectiveness of strategic ruthlessness. From a coldly pragmatic perspective, Daemon had acted decisively, protecting the broader interests of their faction and ensuring the continuation of Rhaenyra's path to power. Yet from an emotional and ethical standpoint, his actions were devastating, forcing Rhaenyra to grapple with the consequences of power wielded without consent or shared moral consideration. The intricacies of this betrayal also speak to the broader theme of ambition within the Targaryen dynasty. Daemon, like many of his predecessors and contemporaries, was a man driven by both loyalty and desire, the desire for power, recognition, and control. The conflict between his personal ambitions and his role as Rhaenyra's partner created a tension that culminated in the ruthless removal of Blood and Cheese. For Rhaenyra, this was a lesson in the fragility of human alliances, a reminder that even those who appear steadfast can act unpredictably when ambition takes precedence over trust. It is essential to understand that Rhaenyra's sense of betrayal was not rooted in the act itself, but in the process, the secrecy, the unilateral decision-making, and the extremity of the measures taken. Daemon's brilliance was undeniable, but it came at a cost: the erosion of trust, the moral compromise of those around him, and the realization that even the strongest bonds could be manipulated to serve strategic ends. This duality, success and betrayal, protection and manipulation, is what made the event so psychologically and emotionally resonant for Rhaenyra. Moreover, this episode highlights the broader challenges of leadership in Westeros. Rhaenyra was not merely a princess or a queen, she was a figure navigating an environment where deception, violence, and ruthlessness were often prerequisites for survival. The betrayal by Daemon underscores the reality that leadership often requires compromise, negotiation, and sometimes uncomfortable alliances with morally ambiguous actors. It forced Rhaenyra to reconcile her personal feelings with the pragmatic demands of rule, a delicate balance that would continue to shape her reign and her legacy. The death of Blood and Cheese also had a significant impact on the morale and perception of Rhaenyra's court. Allies who witnessed Daemon's ruthlessness recognized the effectiveness